Hello everyone, my name is Scalti and welcome back to our Satisfactory Let's Play. Last we left off, we wanted to work our way through the MAM research trees, and so we first started off with our Caterium line, working on automating quick wire, and went ahead and unlocked the Mark II power poles for 7 connections each, as well as unlocking the zip line for an alternative means of travel, which is pretty fantastic. We also headed down below into the caves and refined our quartz production into silica and quartz crystals, and while we were down there we went ahead and got our SAM production online as well. But this was all for the purposes of unlocking our dimensional depots for cloud storage that we went ahead and utilized in our steel production factory for our steel beams, pipes, and industrial encased beams. And now that we have this unlocked, we're going to go ahead and expand its use elsewhere, as well as getting modular frames online. I hope you enjoy. So first things first, this thing is amazing. Since playing from update 3 and constantly having to go to and from or figure out a way to centralize all of the factory outputs, this thing is a dream. With that being said, we need the means in which to build them regularly, and with that we're going to actually head back down into our cave system and work on our sand production line and stick some dimensional depots at the tail end of it, so that way we can regularly craft these as needed. The other challenge with them is that they require modular frames, so we also want to make sure that we get those automated as well. So with us having reanimated SAM being uploaded to the cloud and having us be able to have access it as needed, with steel pipes and wire in our inventory as well, we can go ahead and actually manually craft SAM fluctuators. So essentially that's all I'm doing. I am fully just manually crafting as many as I can make with what we had produced at the time that I went ahead and added in the dimensional depot down below in the cave. And the goal here is essentially to go around to all of our factory outputs and put in some dimensional depots. So as we go through this process of adding them to the end of our production lines, I do want to take the time to note, the initial default upload speed of 15 per minute and the singular stack size is pretty abysmal. One thing we can do to affect the upload rate, however, which we're going to do with our concrete, is rather than just having one dimensional depot per item, you can have multiple. It's all about we'll call it the endpoints. So, we just have the one dimensional depot here right now, but thanks to our industrial storage container, we actually have 2 outputs. So what we can do is we can place this second dimensional depot uploader, and now we can increase our upload speed from 15 to 30 per minute. Not amazing per se, but definitely better. It's essentially double the speed for very little cost, which is pretty fantastic. So as we go through and we're adding all these other dimensional depots to things, the one thing that we also want to take into consideration for all these, like I said, is that there's like the 2 branches for the text tree that we can further expand upon. There's the ability to increase your upload rate and then also increase the stack size. Rather than me just putting in a compilation of me going out and exploring, I promise you, I went out and explored and I found everything. I do know that shortly after, actually, there was an update that came out for the game and it reset everyone's world discoverables, if you will. And I wish I capitalized on it, because always having more Mercer Spheres will be better, but I think we'll be alright. So to that point, here are the tech trees. We got the dimensional depot expansion, which is stack size, and then we also have the alternate tree on the right here for the upload upgrade, which is our upload speed. Then we have a note here in the middle for manual depot uploader, which means we can upload things from our inventory. So it costs quite a bit in terms of Mercer Spheres to ultimately research everything, and in order to easily find them, we're going to need the object scanner. So went ahead and got that crafted up and went exploring. One little tip I wanted to include before I went exploring is I went ahead and took all of our solid biofuel and stuck a dimensional depot uploader on top of it. Reason being, in case it came across any crash sites, I'd have access to some fuel if I put down some biomass burners where the crash pods require power. So fun little pro tip: if you're gonna go exploring the map, make sure you got power on you and the means in which to power everything up. One little surprise that I want to cover. So now that we have all of this set up, it's a little easier for me to craft the crystal oscillators. And the crystal oscillators are needed for billboards, and with the inclusion of emissions being an actual light source, with lumen being included, we can now have lights. And this is what we're doing. So we have a huge 16-meter billboard tucked inside of essentially four, we'll call them quarter pipe foundations. The quarter foundations that we have there. The corner foundations are 2 meters high. We have the billboard recessed in them facing down, set to a nice pure-ish. It's a little bit of a warmish white instead of a full cool white. And the emission set to 3. So that way we get as much light being cast as possible. Went ahead and blueprinted it, so that way we can just quickly tile it up. And what's kind of nice is it's an even number, but it can still work in odd foundation with spaces through the use of half foundations. Technically, they can even just clip. Comes out perfectly fine because it's a corner foundation mixing with a standard foundation, and there's no Z fighting when utilizing them, which is pretty fantastic. So yeah, just wanted to show that off and show what that looks like and how it kind of plays with the pure white foundations that we have at our disposal. Additionally, after our call it light exploration, to get a handful of immersive spheres just to do some initial upgrades. So we're now at 30 per minute per depot for the upload speed, and then we also have increased our stack size and went ahead and also unlocked the ability to upload directly from our inventory. And last but not least, in terms of our dimensional depots, went ahead and overclocked our coal output for our steel production. So that way we could pull some of the coal offline and get that uploaded directly, and then also went ahead and tapped a sulfur node so that way we could easily pull the sulfur and the coal out and manually craft some black powder, which we can then use to make nobelisks. So as a means of continuing to explore and gaining access to all the breakable boulders, this was also an important step before doing some heavy exploration to further acquire more immersive spheres, somber sloops, power slugs, etc. across our map. And one of the things that we haven't automated yet, interestingly enough, are modular frames. We literally have nothing going on for it. So that's what we're doing here. We're making a bolted frame factory, also utilizing bolted iron plates. We're making 10 per minute. This is going to be so that way we can constantly have access to our storage depots, but we also need modular frames in general. So we have 267.5 iron ore coming into the system. We're at 9 smelters, technically rounding up. I'm going to opt for 10 just for some nice symmetry. And some of the logistics in terms of balancing the outputs from that is a little fun, which we'll get into here in a second. But that's the overall layout of what we're going to be looking to accomplish here. While waiting for the factory to spin up, after some troubleshooting and making sure everything is copacetic, I took the opportunity to unlock some milestones. So we went ahead and snagged the vehicular transport so that way we can start utilizing the tractor. Maybe don't have an inherent use for it outright. I went ahead and also unlocked the expanded power infrastructure. This is my first time unlocking this and checking out the power towers. Not 100% certain we're going to have any use for them. I know they're pretty convenient with the zip line and where the power cables run on the structure itself. So we'll take a look. I'll think about it. And then last but not least, we went ahead and unlocked hypertubes. This will be very beneficial to get us to and from where we need to be going, especially when it comes to getting us on the farther sides of the map for exploration and finding immersive spheres, etc. But once we had all that done, went ahead and put some final polish on the exterior of the build. The actual walls themselves, the parallel walls up on the top, utilize blueprints, and then for the base, just went ahead and zooped everything by hand. And due to the overhang here, I saw a nice opportunity to go ahead and use the quarter pipes, and thought this would be a nice kind of way to present a little bit of realism and providing some actual support. So I went ahead and built a full column from the bottom of the factory all the way down to the bottom here. And yeah, I thought it came out really nice. So for the exterior, looks great. Let's go ahead and take a look at the interior though in a little bit more nuance. Overall, the exterior I think came out great. The staircase over on the side here is simple and effective, I would argue. And I kind of wish they had half-wide steps like this here, instead of just like clipping it through, but I think it came out pretty good overall. So the one kind of thing to take note is like the exterior textures and whatnot, how it compares to coated versus uncoated concrete. But the ceiling lights here, by the way, like for example, I just can tap into the cloud storage and make the crystal oscillator, so we got some lighting up on each side to illuminate all of our machines with our logistics going up through this central column there. We also have a staircase over on this side, just so that way we can create a little bit of a pass-through. And the power lines there go from our actual main base location and then cut through the factory, and then that spits out toward the east where we have our steel factory and our deuterium lines, etc. The overall miner here though, I think when we get access to the Mark II blueprint machine, we'll do a proper interior facing wall on these as well, rather than just seeing the raw exposed concrete texture here. But just due to the limitations of the current blueprint machine, it's a little tight otherwise. So we have our iron ore coming into the system here, and this is pretty straightforward. We have this going over into 10 individual smelters, and something really, call it not innovative, but I figured out a little bit of a better way to do a 5-way splitter that's a little bit more, we'll call it in line, to function in a more narrow or longer space. So we have our merger up front, and that splits into a splitter here, which has 2 lines, and then we saw on the opposite side that it loops back into the initial merger. So that's our first 3. And then this line here just goes into 3 smelters as well. So it's a pretty, I would say, compact 5-way split overall. And this is duplicated over on the same side as well. And then all of our output just comes down the middle, and we needed to, based on the way that all this had to split, I'll put that back on the screen here. We can see that the iron ingots need to be split into a line of 132.5 and then a line of 135. So that makes things a little tricky, but not too bad. So what we went ahead and did is, utilizing smart splitters, so that way we can force some overload. We needed to essentially create a maxed out line and then take the remainder and kick it over. So what we're doing here is we're taking the output of one side and splitting that onto a Mark I and then the rest on a Mark III. So you can see that we have overflow going through the middle. So we have a guaranteed line of 60. And then what we're doing with the 60 is we're essentially splitting it twice. So that way we have 4 lines of 15. We take the entire design and flip it essentially. So we have the Mark I belt here. The 15 is coming over, and then that is a remainder from the rest here. So what we have set here is we have a Mark II belt. So we're forcing the output toward the front, and then the overflow to the left. So we get a line of 120, and then we're bringing over that line of 15, and that gives us a line of 135. So this 15 plus the 120, 135, clean and simple. With that smart splitter, we're then taking the output, kicking that over to the other side to give us our remainder of the iron ingots that we need. The remainder that we have here is going into our 6 constructors making our iron plates. Pretty straightforward. The overall output here though, we have our modular frames coming down into a buffer storage, and then we have that feeding into our dimensional depot. So that is the base floor logistics. And heading inside to take a closer look, if I can navigate correctly. So there's the 6 constructors for the iron plates. That's all being piped up to the second floor here. And this is where it starts to get interesting. So I got the diagram up again. The bolted iron plates, is receiving the 90 iron plates from our ground floor. Straightforward, it's just a single straight shot through some floor holes up into the assembler. But if we look at our constructors, so we need 10.6. I opted for 12 for some symmetry. But we need a line of 250 going in for our bolted iron plate, and then we have 2 lines of 140 going into 2 assemblers for our bolted frames. So we are currently limited to our Mark III belting, which is 270 per minute. But also for the logistics of the outputs from the screws themselves is where it gets a little more nuanced, and we utilize some similar principles to what we did on the ground floor with our iron ingot distribution. So we got the 44.7 per constructor, giving us a grand total of 530 screws being made per minute. Technically, it's 44.166 repeated. It rounds up when you're looking at the values there. So to go through the screw logistics here for the outputs, here's this diagram. We can just follow it on the left half because this is fully symmetrical. So essentially we have a line of 265, and the red arrows here indicate where we are forcing a bottleneck using a smart splitter and belt speed. So we take the 265, we kick out a line of 120. That forces us to have a remaining of 145 on the other belt going down. And we do the same thing. We have a smart splitter that kicks 60 onto one line, and then the change, 85, goes off to the side. We then take that 60 and divide that into 3 lines. We take 20, kick that over to our belt of 120. That gives us a line of 140. That remaining 40 goes and remerges with our 85, giving us 125. And then because it's symmetrical, we bring all of that together so we get 250 as our output in the middle. So this is just running through all of those logistics here. So essentially this is where we have the 3 Mark I belts. We have the 20 coming over plus the 120 there. So that gives us a line of 140 here. That goes up into our assembler, making the bolted frame. And then from here, we have our assembler in the middle. So this is our line of 145 and our other line of 145 that's coming into the middle there, and that 125 coming over into the middle there. That's all being pieced back together into the Mark III belt, which goes up and feeds into our assembler, making the bolted frames. The bolted plates. The output for the bolted plate is just pretty simple right here. It's just divided into 2 lines, and those bolted plates go up into their own assemblers, making the bolted frames. And then all of that comes back down where we saw our storage depots. So fun little logistics solution there, I felt, just to try and get everything load balanced. But it is becoming a little bit more challenging to try and do that succinctly and with relative ease. I do know that some of the factories that I'm intending to build are going to potentially require a little bit more of a simplified solution by using manifolds, but we'll see. I know that the bolted iron plate is not the most ideal recipe, but just based on how this all kind of came together, I figured why not? I'm not trying to be the most efficient when it comes to cost per unit production, etc., or even material to final output conversion. We're not going to be, maximizing what all is on this map overall, so I'm not overly concerned about, min-maxing at this level. But I definitely think, adding in that column here gave it a real nice presence and made it feel a little bit more purpose-built instead of just being, slapped into the cliffside here. And really pleased with how this came out. And I'm more specifically looking forward to actually unlocking the coated concrete foundation. But all in all, great result. And I'm excited for the fact that we got the storage depots to manage everything, so that way we can keep all these factories nice, clean, and polished. Thankfully, this one's a little bit of a shorter episode just because of how much content I did cut. Like I said, don't need to see all the exploring. With that being said, though, I hope everyone had a great holiday, which is time-stamping the video. No big deal, but the holidays have come and gone, and we're about to get into the new year. I hope everyone's looking forward to it. I know I am. And appreciate you all being here. Hope you guys had a great holiday. And I'll see you all in the next video.